Okay, so live services, are they unsustainable? That's one of the big questions we've been asking for the last while, right? As a whole bunch of them have obviously been struggling, and today we sort of see another casualty. This is a really rough one though, because it's shutting down for a while, but it's going to feel really bad to the people who spent a whole bunch of money in it, which is not an unlikely thing to have actually happened because this game had a large launch, and the game is Multiversus, and it's shutting down for a minimum of 6 months. This is so weird. So the developer, Player First Games, of course, they're Warner Bros. Warner Bros. Are publishing. They just said that the open beta for Multiversus will be ending. The game will be shutting down and then re-releasing in early 2024. Alright, that's all, folks. Bye! Thanks for the money. That's obviously how it's going to feel to people. This has not went well. And of course, when we were talking about embattled and struggling games, this is one of the ones that we talked about. I don't think at the time I expected this to go down so quickly. Now it is a bit weird though, because they're not fully abandoning it. Here's what's going on. So the game has always been an open beta. They've been upfront about that, right? But they were still offering paid content. Now, when I hear that, I'm thinking something like a Splitgate, where it's yeah, technically this game is in beta, but we're going to continue making it until it's no longer called beta, and you'll be able to play it all the way through. That's obviously what people were, expecting. I think because all of those premium purchases were there, that's probably what the developers were expecting at the time of launch, because frankly, if this was always the plan, that is completely insane. Yeah, it's bizarre. So they've said that the open beta has been an important learning opportunity for them and a stepping stone to the next phase of the game, that they're acknowledging the issues that players have had, and they want to use this as a stepping stone to the next phase. I think the problem though is if players, now I'm not necessarily saying that this is the truth, but if players feel like that stepping stone has been paid for by their money, and while the stepping stone is being walked over, they lose the game they put their money into, yeah, I don't think people are going to be much pleased about that. And really, when a live service is all about momentum and stability, I really question how this is going to happen. But as we'll soon see, they were not really on a trend line that was going in any good direction. Now, they did say that they want to specifically fix up the content cadence of new characters, maps, and modes, to give people more ways to play the game, as well as updated netcode, more matchmaking, and also reworking progression and some friend stuff. So they're going to relaunch the game. It's probably going to be way better. The question is why and how. So to do the how this is happening first, June 25th, 2023 is when Multiversus closes, which feels weird. This is a new-ish game. It relaunches early 2024 on the 4th of April, so that's not too long from now. It will be removed from digital storefronts, premium currency will no longer be purchasable, and there will be no further game or content updates after that point. The current Battle Pass, which is Season 2, is going to be extended until June. Daily missions are added until the game delists to complete the Battle Pass, but weekly challenges will actually stop on March 31st, which would have been the current plan for this Battle Pass. Yeah, so we're down to 2 season live services now before they go down, which is quite something. The thing though is, existing players can fully play until servers are switched off in June, but the servers are going down. Now, you will still be able to play locally, which for a game like this is pretty important. That is really good. You can use the training mode, you can access all of your cosmetics and stuff, but basically only with local multiplayer, right? Now, they claim that if the game is downloaded before April 4th, that you'll be able to re-download it from your system after the game is removed from those storefronts and taken offline on the 25th of June. Of course, any content like free earned stuff or stuff that you paid for will carry into the full launch. And because of this, refunds are not available under any store policies, even under the terms of the open beta closure. I'm sure that was something that people signed, and I'm sure they're not going to feel particularly good about it. They say that they know this will be disappointing, but they're confident that, they'll be bringing Multiverses back in 2024. Yeah. So really then, this does make it feel like a bit of a paid open beta. Now, the weird thing there is, those happen all the time. Overwatch 2, that's technically a beta, right? That's what it still is called. It's like Overwatch 2 PvP beta. Fortnite, of course, that was in a beta for a long time. The thing, though, is that Multiverse is not a game that's been in a healthy stage. So you can see why it would make sense to just just say, nope, no. Anytime we invest into this is throwing time into a black hole. We need to take the core good game that we have and build an overall product and service that people will play for, thousands of hours over time, right? Obviously, though, for people, this absolutely feels like a rug pull, especially when you're able to buy something like, a Founders Pack and premium currency and all of that. And the idea then that for a minimum of 6 months, that stuff won't be there, and let's be real, delays are a thing. So will people even have the confidence that it'll only be 6 months? Because if the game is shutting down in June and they said early 2024, that could still be April 2024, and you could be dealing with the game just being gone for 9 months, right? That's totally possible. As for the why, though, it's hard to exactly know. This is a multi-plat title, and I think, I'm not sure with fighting games, but I'm fairly sure they're more of a console thing, right? But just take a look at the numbers, So if you look at the average players, number one, the peak players, 153k, very healthy. In August, 139k, some drop off, yeah, but that's still really good. But as you move from August into September, you see the average go from 41.5 to 8.6k players with a 22k peak. And basically the numbers just fall down and down and down and down after that. Now, the percentage of decrease, it was slowing down, then it got a little bit hotter. I imagine that this will drop maybe it'll spike up if people want to play the game a bit before things go offline, but for a lot of people, they're not going to see this as somewhere that they can invest their time, especially when they know it's going to be shut down. And then it will be at minimum 6 months, probably more like 9, until it can be played online again, which, let's be real, modern gamers want to play a game like this online with all of its progression and bells and whistles and things to do. That's just the way that people are motivated. And yes, within the FGC, games having a small but dedicated following is a viable thing, but that is not exactly the business model of free-to-play. The business model of free-to-play is you kind of need to be big. You need a net that catches, if you're going to get a few of those whales, you need to catch many, many, many fish and minnows. So it's rough. Now, one of the issues the game had is basically it never really finding the content cadence that it needed to keep people invested. And this is just one of those things when we're talking about live services. People are friggin' content hungry. You just have to look at the size of teams for the successful live services and the amount of live services that have failed. And unfortunately for them, they had in the 4 months since launch 7 new characters be added, and then nothing throughout Season 2. I think there's definitely an argument that stuff could have came out in a little bit more of an evenly paced way. Their last character came out in November, and after that you do see the slide continue. Still, they were on a downward trend. Moving from August to September, you do see a large fall off that does continue. So I even have to wonder, how many would they have kept if they did have that content cadence? Is this an example of really a bit of a flash in the pan thing? Hey, people had fun with it, but they just don't feel like playing it that much anymore. It's quite hard for games to actually capture people's attention. I know a lot of the FGC people, they kind of have their games already. I'm not exactly sure, but there are so many live services. These games, you look at them, you're like, okay, you made a good game, but I just can't see people playing this as a live service. We have so many of them already. The crazy amount of live service games of whatever variety that are relatively small but seemingly are quite expensive to make and have had big glitzy announcements, and you're just kind of thinking are these all just going to walk off the cliff one after another because we're not really in the business of just sustainable games? That's the weird thing with Multiversus. Yeah, it's here free to play. Is this one of those things where another business model could have served it a bit better? I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, it's pretty rough. But on top of that, there have been other issues, including from the from the most core parts of their community, right? So one thing, modding was banned since early in the game's beta. Now, of course, when you see this as being a fairly IP-driven game, that does make sense. Also, live service game, that also kind of makes sense. But some people, the most hardcore, of course, you think about the history of modding Smash, may not have been the most happy about that. Also, data mining was very rampant during the game. Yeah, there's a lot of data mining. That meant that a lot of things that people were excited about kind of, came out there. There's a hype cycle. The developers couldn't necessarily meet that hype cycle. That sort of thing was not good. And when you go to the reaction here, I mean, number one, Parsec saying, hey, just use Parsec and you can play it online with your friends. Fair enough, Parsec is actually a pretty damn good service, so yeah, I can see them using that. But if you go over to the subreddit, this is just people saying, hey, I spent $100 in this game with the premium founders pack. Why is my game gone? Why can I not play it online? This feels like a rug pull. This feels like a scam. This does not feel good. People are maybe thinking, like, is this interference from Warner Bros. Who are thinking the game's not making enough money? How are they changing it? What's going on? Obviously, we literally do not know. The other side, though, is that in light of the game's inherent issues and content cadence problems, people are just thinking like, okay, well, this sucks, but maybe this is the thing that is best for the game in the longest term. And I think the challenging thing there is, in isolation, yeah, doing it right, that's important. But I also think, like, for the most part, you only really have one launch. People, the habit will be broken. I don't know. Unless they're able to come back swinging in a way that is extremely, newsworthy, right? Like, truly newsworthy. I'm just not sure how they're going to be able to get this game audience back, right? Yeah, it's concerning. And then, of course, there's people just thinking maybe it won't come back. And, of course, they will point to the likes of, Warner Bros., who are not really seen in the best light as a publisher, and all these things. Obviously, people are going to speculate, right? Also, there are other fighting games to play. Maybe people will go and play those. And also, you've got more direct things like Brawlhalla, which perhaps people will just move to. And if Brawlhalla slurps up their, their, like, fighting game habits, then breaking that will be hard. At the end of the day, it's a bit of a weird situation. People expected a Smash clone, but they actually found a pretty characterful, well-designed fighter in this niche. Will they be able to find that energy again? Because that's the reason why this was, like, more surprising. I know there was the Nickelodeon fighter as well, but it didn't really do as well. You can't have just another Smash clone. And I think the thing that made this, surprise and delight people is how it probably should have just been a simple Smash clone, but it actually ended up being way better than what people expected. No longer will that be the marketing beat that they can use. So I think the question then is, how the hell in 2024 are they going to be able to get people back into this game? I don't know. Their work is absolutely cut out for them. They will need something big. I just don't really know. And then the thing is, like, content cadence. I mean, if they take a year, they develop a bit of content ahead, but ultimately, if the amount of content that they can make per unit time is not up to the pace of the community expectations, well, then we're going to have this problem in the future. And then it could even be the case that it's not even the content cadence, because obviously a bit of a drop was happening anyway. Could some of this just be the inherent stickiness of the game? Because at the end of the day, there are so many live services out there. I think it's kind of hard to say, but ultimately, that's my take on the issue. These live services are, do you know what they are, right? By default, they are unsustainable, low chance of success bets. And I think the reason why a lot of these bets are being taken is because really you only need a few of them to work, right? You need a few of them to work, and the other ones being the graveyard is basically fine. That's the business model. Look at venture capital. Like, the business model of venture capital is that many of your bets will fail, but those will be capped losses compared to the humongous wins, the few things that you do that do have a lot of success. The difference, though, is that in a lot of those startup examples, like, those are maybe hitting business customers, right? Or, they're only hitting a small locality as they're trying to roll out. Whereas this is like hitting the gaming audience at large. And I think that does mean that the gaming audience at large is becoming tired and suspicious of aspects of this model. So, it'll be hard to come back from. I don't really know if we'll be able to do it. Do you think? Yes or no? Let me know down below. With that said, I'll see you next time.